Can you believe it? I can't quite believe it myself. It is week 5 in CIT85. It's almost like it goes together. So in the real world, at the time I'm recording this, you all are in the beginning of week 2. So you can see how far. I always try to keep at least 2 weeks ahead. So as of today, I'm successful, which feels good to me. So this week, I started looking at our project work that we're going to be doing. That starts next week. And in week 2 that you all wrote some of your ideas, I appreciated some of those. And I've been coming up with one myself. So here's what we're going to end up doing. And the good news is we're going to learn something we haven't covered in this class to create the content for your site. You're going to create about between maybe 6 and 7 pages, let's say, website, right? Now that total of 7 pages, but then you'll have a menu, and we learn a lot. We've already learned a lot. You're going to learn more as we move forward about great ways to create menus. But think of a regular website, right? We have 7 pages, but we wouldn't have 7 menu items. What we would have then is some pages, right, that are what we call our main pages for our menu, go to a page, and then inside of that page would link to another page. So you end up getting 7 total pages from like 3 or 4 menu items. So in this case, the first thing that probably comes to your mind besides, oh my God, I got to create that much, you don't have to write the content. That's the good news. What you're going to focus on is the HTML. But to create the content, I'm going to have you use ChatGPT. Now, think about this, and that's why I'm doing it this week, to start the wheels a turning about what you would want to use as far as your topic, right? Because here's the thing, you're going to ask me, like, what can it be on? And I'm pretty much going to say anything you want, but keep it academic in nature. Like, you all are going to end up sharing this site with everybody as the last step. And you're sharing it with me through each week, starting next week. So what you want to do is think about something that would be fun for you to research, right? Because using ChatGPT, which by the way is completely free for using, and I think they're even going to do it for the latest version, the 4.0 model, we call them. They're large language models Anyway, I don't need to get into that part. Although if you want to chat about that, come chat with me, because I love chatting about that stuff. But part of what you're going to learn, if you don't already have some experience with chat, is how to write prompts. Okay, so you can think of prompts, and that's why I've given you a link to an article here to think about it, right? Is I want you to start thinking about, like, if you were just talking to somebody that you knew a lot about a topic you wanted to learn about, then what you'd be doing is talking to them. And in a sense, that's what you would be doing when you're writing prompts. You ask it a question, you get some content, you read that content, you ask another question. Okay. Now you can continue to ask more and more questions, or you can start a new chat, kind of like a new conversation, because here's what chat does. Before I tell you that, compare it to like what we're doing when we're searching Google or using some other search engine. We're giving it search terms. We're looking at the results. We then probably refine our search terms to get better results, right? And in this sense, it's doing something similar. And Google actually has a lot of data that shows over time people got much more comfortable with writing or creating good search terms just by the nature of writing them. Okay, and that's part of what I want you to do for this assignment, because this technology is going to impact every one of us. And the better we all get at using it, right, the more we can leverage it for ways that we can't even begin to think of. Now, of course, the way that sometimes in the academic world it gets bad, some people are concerned about this. I understand it. I just think there's other ways to get students with these experiences is to have it write essays for you. But even that is going to there are tools as instructors we have to make sure that hasn't happened, or at least try. But for a class like this, right, I want you to think about that, right? To think about more, not so much the essay part, but that you're going to use this as a research tool. So instead of having to go to the library or again, using a search engine, you're going to learn to converse with ChatGPT. So if you don't have an account, set one up. It's free. Okay. And then, like, if I was just to go over here, here's all the chats. I have a ton of chats with them because there's a lot of times I want to know kind of best practices. But if I was going to start a topic, if I was thinking about, because I will do an example of the project as I go through it with you all. I was thinking about what the topic I would want to do, and it's something that I research a lot, is health related, and it's something called heart rate variability, HRV. So in that case, maybe I would start with, teach me about HRV and why it is important. Now, it may not be the best prompt in the world, but here's what I get, right? So I'm going to read through here and go, okay, what does it measure? It's part of the autonomic nervous system. What's the significance of it? How to measure it? So this is a great place to start. And it's not that long. See this? And notice what it did over here is it created then that chat, because now I can take one of these topics, right? And then I could say maybe something like, what is the best way to measure it? So what it understands now, it understands what I'm talking about. I'm going to scroll up, right? And then it knows I'm talking about HRV, in this case, heart rate variability. Okay? And then let's see if I get any better. Oh yeah, so here are the different ways I can measure HRV. Perfect, right? So I've already now started to have a conversation. This is like somebody walking into my office. They are an expert in the topic I want to know about. So I'm going to ask them about it. And really, you want to think about this in terms of just learning how to ask questions, and we call that prompting. So just to bring it back around, in this class, you're going to create a website. That website is going to have a menu that will have ultimately links to, 7 pages. Again, 3 or 4 menu items. We'll talk about that more next week. But this week, I want you to get started thinking about the topic you want to use ChatGPT to create the content for you so that you can create the website based on what we've learned in this class. And so bringing it back to the class, if I was to look, ahead, because that's what I did today after I finished week 5 code along, which was so fun. I say that because it really was. But I said, okay, next week, week 6, we are down to 1 code along. Okay. And then we do the first step in the project. And in this case, you're not sharing it with everybody. You're sharing it just with me. So we don't have group work. Okay. We don't have group work for week 7 because, again, you'll have a code along and then you'll have step 2. So every week I'll be having you do something, like apply the major concepts we've learned in this class. Like so you can already see P1 is going to be, okay, get your content together. What do you think your menu is going to be? And then build out your pages using the semantic tags that we've learned, right? That will definitely be part of what P1, part 1, will be next week, okay? And then P2, and then P3 is week 8, and then here is where we'll bring it back and we'll share them with everybody. And you'll still have some work to do for that last one. But as you see, our group stuff that we've been doing, and the last one will be in week 4, where we take what we did in week 2 and we do a little more to it. Then becomes, let's actually do project work, okay? All right, so I'm just giving you like where we're heading, what you want to be thinking about, okay? And in this, one thing I do want to say, kind of a little off that, but I wanted to say here in week 5, I mentioned this earlier, but I want to bring it back around, right? So here this is in simple syllabus, right? Here's my office hours, Zoom or on campus, and here's Zach's hours on the bottom, right? Zach has some early evening hours. So definitely make sure you're reaching out for help if you need it, because in a class like this that moves so quickly, we're covering quite a bit of content. You don't want to get behind, because getting behind, it is harder and harder to catch up for every assignment you get behind. I've noticed, definitely statistically speaking, students that get behind more than 2 or 3 assignments, their chances of not passing increase. So I don't want you to get into that position. I don't set due dates to punish you. I set them to keep us all on track. Right? That's my thinking. Okay, coming back to week 5 attendance. So each video, of course, has its own video where I've gone over some of the things that you may run into. So definitely watch those to help with some of that. This week, the file and folder, that structure. Matter of fact, let me just show you mine. Let me bring mine a little bigger. Right, here's my week 5 part 1 week. So, and then it's week 5 part 2. And then whenever I generally just take one. Now you don't have to, because you can create these from scratch. And the thing is and I talk about this in the videos, Dave actually has on his site the starter code. And starting, I think this week, he also gives the in solution code. But remember, what I grade on is commits, prompts and commits. But that will be helpful. It was for me, and I actually give you an example in P2 because I ran into an issue. Okay. So again, you create and by the way, really, and some of you have already seen this to be true, I'm very particular about lowercase. When I give you an example of what that needs to be, you need to follow those. And part of that's just encoding. We have to have certain standards. We have to have certain naming standards. Okay, so for your reply, bringing it back to here, this is what I want you to tell me. In your reply, have you tried ChatGPT? And if you have, given what I've told you about how we're going to be using it, what are some of the ideas that you might want to use, or some of the topics you might want to research to create the content for your site? Okay. And then if you've never used it, right, definitely check out. And even if you have, there's so many. I mean, there's a new term in our world called prompt engineering. Because the better you get at learning to write prompts, the better content you're going to get out of these chat. In this case, there's several of them. Google has one called Bard. You could use that one if you want. I'm not opposed to that. But in this case, right, you just want to start learning. Like I said, giving the analogy of the search engine, I think is pretty comparable. But this actually takes the idea of a search engine to a whole new level. And learning to use it is going to benefit you in ways that are really not even knowable yet. I know for me it already has. I feel like I can be much more productive in certain areas that I couldn't be before, because I can just ask questions of chat. Now, here's the thing. Let me end with this. Chat's going to lie to you sometimes. And it's called hallucinations, because what it will do is, if it doesn't know the answer, it'll kind of think, well, this might be the answer. It's kind of like when you talk to somebody, like I was giving you an example, somebody walks into my office, they know about the topic I want to know about, and maybe I've asked them a question that they don't quite know, but they can kind of BS their way through it. Chat will do that. So in our context, it's fine. But remember, when you're thinking about how you would use it, it really is, it's a tutor. It'll help you do research. It'll help you understand things. I mean, there's just so many ways to use it. So the sooner you get started, the better. So in your reply, tell us, have you used it? If so, which one? And if not, start using one and think about, give us some ideas, right? At least reply with what you think you might use the topic for your website. Again, I'm giving you a lot of flexibility as far as a topic. For those of you who are, you have another class where you have to study some topic, you could use that. I don't care. If you have, in this case, come up with content somehow, something and make it something interesting to you, because then you're like more likely to work on it. That's why I gave the HRVs. Like, I'm already starting to think about how I would do that. Okay, enough from me. Have a good one. Oh, I did give you a CSS meme this week. If you haven't seen this, CSS, you try different things to get it. It's very common for CSS, and you may see some of that this week. I know I did when writing the grid stuff. So anyway, if you don't know, now you do. One of the best memes about CSS. Have a good one.